Am I the a-hole for treating my coworker differently after she accused me of SA when I saved her life? I'm a quiet guy and genuinely friendly. I treat all my coworkers as friends. About 2 months ago, during a work lunch, one of my coworkers started choking, so I did a Heimlich maneuver to help her. After she was in the clear, the others cheered. I asked if she was alright, and she just nodded and headed to the bathroom without a word, so I didn't think much about it. Until 2 days later, when I got called into HR for my inappropriate behavior. I was confused and asked for more details. That's when they told me that my coworker had filed a complaint stating that she felt my touches while I was helping her were inappropriate, that my body was too close, and that she felt my private touching her. I gave my statement and they put me on ice. I was still working, but with the potential to be removed, while they investigated further. After a week, I was in the clear. I returned to working normally without fear, but I started distancing myself from that coworker. She tried to apologize, which I accepted, and she tried to explain that she has trauma and should have told me. But I still took precautions and only treated her as just a colleague. I no longer talked to her unless needed, always keep my distance. I no longer invite her out unless there are others present. She could feel my hesitation toward her, and how I no longer treat her the same as others. She tried to say that I'm being ridiculous and petty, but I told her that I'm just looking after myself. So, am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. So she falsely accused you of SA when you saved her life in front of a crowd using a widely known medical technique? I would hope your company is looking for a way to let her go, because this lunatic is a massive liability to have around. Not only that, next time she chokes, everyone will be too afraid to help her. That would be a play stupid games, win stupid prizes moment. You have to avoid her now. That's the answer. You weren't fired this time, but she has the power to get you fired, and you do not sacrifice yourself in this situation. That will not solve anything and will only cause you harm. Not the a-hole. You literally saved her life, and she repaid you by filing a false SA complaint that could have ruined your career and reputation. Her having trauma doesn't excuse potentially destroying someone's life after they helped her. Your new boundaries are completely reasonable. Keeping interactions professional and distancing yourself is the smart move to protect yourself. You could have been fired or labeled as a predator over performing a medical emergency procedure. She's upset because she has to face the consequences of her actions. She can't accuse someone of SA and then expect the relationship to go back to normal just because she apologized. You're not being petty, you're being prudent. WTF, falsely accusing someone of SA is no damn joke, and she expects things to remain the same? Her apology doesn't cut it. Stay far away, please. Not the a-hole in any way. She only apologized after the investigation concluded and he was found innocent. That speaks volumes about her character. Next story. Am I the a-hole for reporting my coworker to management for touching and smelling my hair? So I, 28 female, work at a tech company and it's generally a relaxed environment. Most of my coworkers are pretty chill, and I get along with everyone, including Tom, 35 male. We work on the same team, but I don't interact with him too much outside of team meetings and casual office chats. That said, things have gotten really uncomfortable lately, and I'm not sure if I'm overreacting, so I need some advice. About a month ago, I was sitting at my desk working, and Tom walked by and, without saying anything, reached over and brushed his fingers through my hair. I was stunned, but I didn't say anything. Just awkwardly laughed it off, assuming it was a one-off thing. But then it started happening more and more. Every time he'd walk by my desk, he'd touch my hair, sometimes lightly running his fingers through it. It started feeling weird, but I just didn't know how to handle it. Then one day, it crossed the line. I was in the break room getting coffee, and Tom came up behind me and smelled my hair. He just leaned in, took a deep breath, and said something like, "Your hair smells so good. What kind of shampoo do you use?" I was completely horrified. I didn't know what to say, so I just muttered a quick answer and walked away. I couldn't believe it. After that, it only got worse. He would sometimes stand a little too close to me when talking, and I'd catch him sniffing the air around me like he was trying to smell my hair again. He'd even comment on it like, Your hair always smells so fresh. I wish I knew what scent that is. I tried to brush it off, but it felt more and more invasive every time. Finally, a few days ago, after I did it again during a meeting, I couldn't stay silent any longer. I felt grossed out and violated. I went to HR and explained the situation, including how Tom had repeatedly touched and smelled my hair without my consent. I told them I felt uncomfortable and had tried to ignore it, but it had gone on long enough. HR assured me they'd take care of it. A couple of days later, Tom came to me visibly upset. He asked why I went to HR and said, "I didn't think it was a big deal. I was just complimenting you on your hair. It's no different than someone saying they like your shoes." I told him it wasn't just a compliment. It was an invasion of my personal space, and I had asked him to stop before, but he didn't listen. He then said I was overreacting, that I was making things awkward, and that I should have just told him to stop instead of reporting him. A few people from our team have been talking about it, and some say I made a mountain out of a molehill, that I should have just handled it directly with him. Now I'm feeling conflicted. I don't want to be the person who overreacts, but I also feel like his behavior was crossing serious boundaries. Was I wrong for going to HR? Should I have just told him to stop? So, am I the a-hole for reporting Tom to management instead of just asking him to stop? Not the a-hole. That was seriously creepy behavior. I don't know how you let him even touch your hair to begin with. I think being a woman makes you allow things that you shouldn't allow. In the future, don't allow anybody to invade your personal space in any way. Seriously, you have nothing to feel guilty about. Nothing. It's also sexual harassment, especially if he's saying that it's the same as a compliment to your shoes. It is not. I'd also report that he came and berated you about the situation to HR, since his answer should have been okay and then stopped interacting with you. Be safe. Report his reaction to HR. He needs to understand that his behavior and his reaction are both unacceptable. Don't let him intimidate you into accepting this kind of behavior. This absolutely qualifies as harassment and could end up creating a toxic work environment for you. When I was in my 20s, I had very similar experiences. It took decades for me to learn how to stand up for myself. Please, OP, listen to your gut in these situations. Don't worry about your coworkers' opinions. Seriously, when you eventually leave your job, you won't ever hear from half of them again. What's most important is that you are comfortable in your place of work. Next story. Would I be the a-hole if I bought emotion-activated door chime from my office because my partner keeps scaring me? Me and my partner both work from home. During the day, I work out of a spare room and he works out of the living room. So during work hours, these two spaces essentially function as two offices. I will refer to the room I work in as my office for simplicity's sake, but it is not for my exclusive use. And there is a second bathroom that can only be accessed through the spare room. I scare extremely easily. I usually keep the door open unless one of us is on a call, but very frequently my husband will walk in the room and scare me really badly. I'll scream and jump, and for a few seconds, I genuinely cannot control my reaction. Sometimes, I feel like I almost white out because it scares me so much. I don't handle it very well. A good scare will leave me shaking for hours afterward. I know I'm very sensitive to being startled and that it's an unreasonable reaction, but I genuinely cannot control it. I have some trauma in my past that contributes to this, but I'm working with a therapist. My partner takes a great deal of offense to my reactions, even though I try to explain that I can't control them. Sometimes when he startles me like that, I'll say something like, "Why did you do that?" Or, "Why do you keep doing that?" as a reflex, and that hurts his feelings. I always apologize and try to assure him it's not personal. It's just what comes out of my mouth when I'm scared. But I can tell it really bothers him. I've asked him to just pause and knock before he comes in, but that's not really fair since it's his home too, and the room isn't exclusively mine. However, the scares are bad enough that they can greatly impact my workday. I know this seems extreme, but a good scare makes me feel like my brain turns off for a while until I can get a hold of myself again. I suggested this morning, after a particularly bad scare, that maybe I should get a motion sensor door chime, like the ones they have in shops. I could install it in the hall just before my door and put the noisemaker on my desk so that I'll hear the noise and know he's coming. My partner thinks that's over the top, but I want to find a solution that will work. Would I be the a-hole if I just bought a chime and set it up? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole, but why is he coming through your office so frequently? If it's for the bathroom, why can't he use the other bathroom? Get a sensor. There's no good reason not to have one. And if there's no good reason for him to be walking through your workspace so often, then he is trying to undermine you. Usually it's to come chat with me, but it can also be to grab something since the room has storage in it. He used to come through to use the bathroom when he had to go number 2, but I put my foot down on that because it felt so awkward for me to try to work just 6 feet from where he was using the bathroom. Also, the smell would linger for ages. So now he uses the other bathroom pretty much exclusively. He's doing this to you on purpose. Yep, I have a very overreactive startled response too. My husband though, he'll call out to me before coming up to me unawares. He actively tries to minimize my stress. Actively. Not the a-hole. Look, I have a childhood trauma-caused PTSD. A very active startle reflex, which is what you are describing, is one of the symptoms. You cannot help it. It is part of who you are. You need to find a way to make this work. If it's a door chime, so be it. For me, it would be locking the dang doors so they have to knock. If you let them in right away, you aren't blocking their access to a shared room. Shared rooms don't mean everybody has 100% access all the time. You have the right to privacy, safety, and limits. Here's my example. What triggers me is sound and movement, like when you work in a cubicle and your boss walks up behind you and starts talking. Yeah, I would jump, startle in my chair, and let out a scream every time. So, what did this boss do? He learned that he either waits to talk to me when I notice him, or stands still and talks to me. No more jump scares. No more screaming. That was a boss. Not a man who loved me and was supposed to be my partner. Just some dude who could have made my life hell, but cared enough to learn and change his behavior. Your partner needs to step up. Part of my being easily scared definitely comes from my childhood. I grew up in a borderline cult and wasn't allowed privacy as a kid. So I spent a lot of time getting caught for doing things I wasn't supposed to, like reading secular literature. I think that led me to feel like I'm always in trouble or something. I'm working on it, but I don't really have access to regular therapy at this time. I know there is nothing he could catch me doing that would get me in trouble, but I feel like that fear still kind of exists. Mini update. Sorry, I'm a little overwhelmed. A lot of people are saying he's doing it on purpose. And I hadn't thought of that. I'm more than entertaining that idea now. I'm going to try my best to reply to comments. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for showing my sister the same amount of care she showed me when my ex-boyfriend turned out abusive? My older sister Anna has always been opinionated and judgmental. She sees the world in black and white and barely shows empathy toward people, even her own family, unless they're exactly like her. She doesn't agree with my choices and can't understand why I want kids and be a stay-at-home mom. She doesn't just not understand, she critiques it at every turn, to the point where my husband can't stand her and has banned her from our house. We also don't allow our kids to spend time with her. I've never liked her, and the peak of my dislike for her was back when I was in college. I got into a relationship with Rob. I thought he was perfect. He seemed kind, funny, and attentive. I won't go into details, but that relationship went from good to absolutely terrible. It only stopped when I called the cops on him. He was arrested, and I finally had the courage to leave and tell my family and friends. When I told Anna, I'm sure you can guess her reaction. She had no sympathy and asked why I hadn't seen the signs. She was sure I had ignored them just to have a hot, bad boyfriend, and said, "Look where that's gotten you." I didn't argue with her. Frankly, I was tired. I told her that if she ever got into an abusive relationship, she should never call me because the only thing I do is laugh at her. I stopped trying with her and just focused on my husband, kids, and my 2 other sisters. Now on to the present. Anna's husband of 7 years put his hands on her a couple of days ago. I don't know the full story, but they were arguing and he ended up slapping her mid-fight, as well as calling her horrible names. She left and went to our parents, who called the cops on her behalf, and he was arrested. My dad told me about it and asked me to bake something for her to cheer her mood up. I told him no, that I'm not going to show care to that woman. I mean, she has our parents and her dog. What more could she need? It was a phone call and I guess on speaker, because Anna freaked out and started yelling at me. I told her again, why should I care about a woman who ignored bad signs and got into a relationship with a bad man just because he was a doctor? She was hysterical, so I cut the call because her voice alone irritates me. Lol. My mom called me and said I need to sympathize with her and that she won't talk to me until I do. I just said, fine, if she's willing to cut me off, then she's cutting off my husband and kids for a woman who barely visits them, even though she lives only 30 minutes away. My parents haven't talked to me since, and I honestly don't know if I was wrong. I'm tired of being the one who is understanding and nice to her when I'm the youngest, and she can't spare a bit of empathy. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. She can't refuse to give care and empathy and then expect the same back. Treat people how you want to be treated, but also treat people with the same respect you have for yourself. She didn't have either of those, so if your parents want to deal with it, let them. Focus all your energy on your family. At least you didn't marry your abuser. Tell mom, I'm treating sis the same way you treated me when my ex abused me. She set the standard. I'm just playing by her rules. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. I would rather talk to your parents and tell them what your sister did and said when you were abused. You are only following her example of treating her the same way. This way, they are aware of how rotten she was to you. Not the a-hole with a caveat. Do your parents know the extent to which your sister has alienated you? Or are they putting this down to sibling rivalry? Excellent point. It's important that the parents understand why you are behaving the way you are, OP. You do need to talk to them about it outside of when your sister is on the phone. I hate when people have someone on a call and don't tell you. It's highly inconsiderate and downright rude. Anyhow, be sure they understand how she treated you when you were in that situation. They will probably think you need to be more understanding since you have been through it. Tell them it's the opposite. You needed support then and she belittled you. Because of that, you cannot support her now. It was hurtful and you are still angry. Parents tend to leap to support the child that's having emotional stress. It's pretty natural. They just need to understand why you can't. If they push it, just go low or no contact for a little while until things die down. Then you can have a talk with them about what happened and why you had to stand on your ground. You probably sounded pretty cold and heartless to them in this situation. Once it calms down and they're able to look at the bigger picture, they may be better able to understand where you are coming from.